So I'm just about to head in and visit the Hyde Park Barracks here at Sydney. I'm not exactly sure what to expect, so why don't you join me inside? So here I am today in Hyde Park Barracks, and I've just learned about a woman called Lucy Hicks who actually ran the barracks alone after her husband died in 1879, and she was known as the no-nonsense matron of the barracks. And this is actually the room that she lived in for most of her life. So she apparently had 14 children and was juggling that alongside actually running the barracks, which just sounds absolutely amazing. But it's good to see a woman, a 19th century woman, being represented in a place such as this. What I have to keep reminding myself about Australia is that it's not actually that old. And you can see that in a lot of the bottles and the pottery here that they've recovered from below the barracks themselves. Look at this vase. It's of a type of design that's very popular even still today. In fact, I even think that my mum has a similar type design plates. And as we keep going along, these little artifacts let us know that people really did exist here, and not all that long ago. One of the most interesting things that I've found in this little room here is this prayer book. It's been wonderfully preserved, even though a lot of the pages have been eaten by rats. But we actually have a hint that religion was still incredibly important to those who resided here. This is one of the things that I really love about museums in Australia. They really try to depict the human aspect of what was going on here. In this room, they've tried to represent the thoughts and feelings of all the convicts who resided in this room. On the front of these men who are in shadow, you even get a little bit of information about what they might have done, who they were, and when they came to be here. It's quite a dynamic way, and it really intrigues the mind as you're walking around a museum such as this, and even in a bare space that almost has nothing in it. I'm intrigued to know more about these gentlemen who resided here, what they thought, how they felt, where they came from, and how they felt to be so far removed from home. Now this is one of the rooms where the convicts would have slept, and I just want to point out, look at how many hammocks there are in here. Look at how dark the room is. Yes, they have blackout blinds, but think about it at night after the sun has gone down and you're forced to come in here and try and find your way to your hammock. What if you're right at the back? There's a way to walk down here, but I can imagine at the end of a day's work, when you're really tired and there's a lot of angry men around you, what would it be like to bang into them by accident? You really have very little room to climb in at night. I also want to point out just how warm it is today. Now we're in the middle of autumn, And it's really not been that sunny or that warm during my trip. In fact, it's been quite rainy. Today has been a rare humid day, but it's still a little overcast. And yet inside this room that has very little ventilation, it is really stifling. So I can imagine at night, if you were having to sleep in this really tight space, just how uncomfortable you would feel. The barracks in 1848 changed to have more of a focus on female deportation rather than convicts, and this was because of the growing number of free immigrants that were coming to Australia. This room looks quite a bit more comfortable than the hammocks that we've seen upstairs, but look at the size of the beds, they're absolutely tiny. Now this might not seem much for a young girl who is coming over from her homeland, say in Ireland, Scotland or England, but when you're removed from home and you're having to sleep in bunks that are as tiny as this with a number of other girls, what are you really going to be feeling? What are you really going to be thinking? Even if it is a warmer and sunnier climate. Each room in the barracks really does have its own character. In this room we have more of a traditional museum style setup where they have lots of banners filled with information and pictures from the period. We also have representations of buildings around the city. Here we have courts and government offices from 1887 to 1920. I have to say though, this room, even though with its wealth of information, isn't quite as inspiring as the other rooms that are far more creatively set out and inspire you to think about the thoughts and feelings and humanity of the people who once lived here. So that's my visit at the Hyde Park Barracks over. If you want to know more about historical things or my trip around Sydney, then subscribe to the channel, give this video a like up, a thumbs up, and why not give me a comment about what you'd like to see next. See you in the next video.